Hello, KCIW listeners, and welcome to another live broadcast of Curry Café, where producer and host Ray Gary puts together a panel of volunteers and guests to discuss various topics of interest from fun to serious and everything in between. So here's Ray to tell us about today's show.
Well, today's show is going to be kind of a potpourri of just about everything. To tell you the truth, we couldn't come up with a regular subject to fill the whole hour, so we're all going to talk about something we want to talk about. And before we start that, though, we should go around the table and have everybody introduce themselves.
Okay, I am Rick McNamer, volunteer here at KCIW, and want to let everybody know we do have a text line today, and it is 541-661-4098. So text in comments, questions if you'd like.
Hello, I'm Nicole Frenzel. I'm also a volunteer here at KCIW.
And I'm Robin Renee, also a volunteer here as well.
Okay, well, everybody had a lot to say about themselves. I see Nicole hasn't pointed out her acting abilities in several of the local plays, and Robin has also participated in those plays. So we have a couple of theatrical stars here as well.
Wouldn't go so far as to call us theatrical stars.
Hey, it's a small
it's
town.
fun.
It's a small
It's fun.
town. It's a volunteer station, 100 watts. We got to build ourselves up where we can, I guess.
That's right.
You have artistic licenses there.
Yes. Okay, first thing I want to talk about this morning is a week or so ago, we got this incredible emergency warning that we could be in the way of a tsunami. Well, I got a text, I guess they call it, or maybe just a warning on my phone, and I thought, wow, well, we know something. But that was about it. I think they probably repeated that a couple of times, and at my house, I can overlook the ocean, so I just sat in a chair there with my binoculars waiting for the excitement to happen. But it didn't happen, obviously. But what if it had? Or what if it had? Or what if it had been a serious one? And what if it had taken out things all the way as far as 101, which is certainly possible. We live in an area that is very susceptible to tsunamis, earthquakes, and forest fires. So if it had come in and it had done some damage, maybe took out some power and things like that, we don't have a system in Brookings to let everybody know what's going on. If, I don't know, you needed to go and get emergency help someplace, you have no idea where to go. Now, several years ago, we had a pretty large forest fire. I had burning leaves landing on my deck, so I was a little concerned. But the only way I could find out anything is to go to the whiteboard at Fred Meyer and see the ranger there who was drawing pictures for us and showing us where the fire was and all that type of thing. It was not a very comfortable situation. Years ago, or just a year or two before that, there was a huge fire in Paradise, and that took out the whole town pretty much, and I think there were 40-something people killed in it.
I believe so.
And nobody knew what to do, where to go. If you look at YouTube, and I suggest you do that, just put in Paradise Fire. There's several videos in there, and one kind of a scary one is this woman is driving down the road. I think she has 2 kids in the car with her, and it's fire on either side of her. It's like she's driving through a tunnel of fire, and she's saying things like, I don't know where we're going. I don't know if we're getting good, better, or worse. And there were a number of things like that. And one guy said he went out to get his mail in the morning, and he looked out in the west or whatever, the east, and he said, boy, I've never seen the sunrise look quite like that. Well, it wasn't the sunrise, that the other side of the town was on fire, and he didn't know it. Lots of stories like that. Now, years ago when KCIW was putting itself together, they made a deal, had a memo of understanding with the city that if we could put our broadcast thing
Tower.
on their tower,
Yeah.
we would be able to, in the case of emergency, turn our station over to them, and they could have all their experts, the fire chief and whoever, come on and tell us what's going on, where you go to get some food, where you go to get anything. This would be in the event that or the entire city was knocked out, power was knocked out, everything. There's city towers are supposedly bomb-proof and will last through anything. If you remember 3 or 4 years ago, our power was out for about 5 hours, but we were still on the air. Unfortunately, we didn't have this emergency broadcast in place, so we couldn't broadcast what it was all about. Now, the MOU was up in 3 years. I think it was 3 years, and at that time we would reevaluate it. Well, by then, the city had decided that they wanted to reevaluate us. One of the councilmen, I remember saying that he didn't think that the its residents would appreciate them aiding, or I don't remember the exact words he used, but allowing a radio station that has an agenda. So what they were obviously concerned about is that we were too liberal. Now, I stood in front of the council and asked for examples of that and didn't get any. And then I said, have any of you ever listened to KCIW? None of them had. None of them had listened. We do not have an agenda, as an aside. Anybody can come volunteer. If you want to do a show, you want to get on this show, you want to make comments. We don't ask you your religion, how much money you make, or who you voted for. As another aside, at the time they were saying that, we had 4 people I know as volunteers for the station who voted for Trump. So what an emergency broadcast system needs to be, it needs to be able to give you ongoing information. And the city decided that they were going to push us off their antenna. By what they did, it was the end of the 3-year agreement, and they raised us from, I think it was $10 a year or some very, very small amount of money to $36,000 a year, because they said that's what it would be worth commercially. And they also claimed at the time they had a client that was ready to put a transmitter on the antenna that they were going to pay $36,000 for. Well, we brought people in from Paradise. One couple was, the guy was a fireman, and I forget, the woman had something else to do with emergency services. And they agreed that they would have gladly have paid $36,000 to have the information needed. Long story short, we wound up having to come off the antenna because there was no way we could pay that kind of money. And then we had to search for a new place to put our transmitter. And try as we might, the city would get in our way anything we pointed out. This is this violation or that violation. We also had the problem of the FCC. In order to put this transmitter up, it had to be on a pole that could stand 130-mile-an-hour winds, which is pretty darn big deal. That's pretty expensive. So we looked and looked, and we finally came up with the best way to do this would be to buy a flagpole that has the proper height. I believe it was 60 feet. The flagpole people said they would come down here and erect it for us, and I don't remember the cost, but it was not too bad. And it was doable, and I think we actually did raise the money in a reasonable amount of time. So, and we found a place to put it up. This was going to go over in the little shopping center where the tea house used to be, and now it's a pizza place. Can't remember the name of it. Anyway, the owner of that shopping center said we could put it right there. He had a little building. We had a little spot to put it, and we had to get a permit to do it. Now, this is a flagpole. So the planning people decided that in order for us to put this up, we would have to, first of all, we'd have to go to the community and get approval. There's no houses even close to that in the community. Then they had to paint it to match the building, and then we had to put up a 6-foot chain link fence around it, which was also painted to match the building. And we also had to allow any other nonprofits that wanted to use it. So in other words, they were saying, no, you can't do this because there's no way we could go through all that. So in effect, the city council turned down the opportunity to have, for practically nothing, an excellent emergency broadcast system, and they just pushed us away because we had an agenda. At the time, and even now, I consider that unbelievably irresponsible and almost criminal. I forgot to mention earlier that there are many around the country, there are many community radio stations like this one who have a similar agreement with their municipalities, and it works out very well. So they would have had all of that for free, basically free. I think it was $10 a month to pay for the electricity.
Well, what amazes me in this area, as beautiful and wonderful as it is, we are so susceptible to a lot of terrible things.
That's what we were trying to tell them.
Fire, tsunamis, or all of that. And I can't believe that any agenda would cause somebody to say no on trying to help people get the emergency broadcasting out.
I have one more thing to add to that. I have some understanding that the new city manager, by the way, well, I won't say that, is interested in and wants to do something about it. I called him to find out what he had in mind, and he never returned my call. It could be he's busy. I think it was Wednesday that I called him. But, we'd like to know if there is something. And I'm just shocked that the community was not more upset about this, or the city wasn't.
So this is the same city that hires someone that steals and has a criminal background and gives them a raise? We're talking about the same city here?
Yeah.
I understand.
You're talking about the city manager?
Yes.
The city council.
Who was, by the way, I guess I can't say that. She was leading the charge in getting us off the tower.
Great.
We had they made us an offer, and we looked at the offer and said, well, we like this is okay, that's okay, this is okay. So we counter-offered, just taking a little of the money, and I don't remember what the counter-offer was, and that had to go to her, and she returned it a week later, making it worse than the city's original offer and our offer. Took that on herself, but
I was wondering who pays or where do those announcements and things that we did get on our phones, where does that come from?
I'm sorry?
The announcements, the big and the sirens you hear in town as well.
I don't know where that comes from.
Because somebody must pay for that, or where does it originate?
Well, I have apps on my phone that tell me when there is a danger. Some of them come from Humboldt, some of them come from other parts in the country, but nothing locally.
Mm-hmm.
And let me touch on the sirens a little bit. I happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time when that tsunami hit. I was up at Cape Farello, where I have to turn my phone off because it goes into some crazy stuff. So while all this is going on, I was up there enjoying myself. As I come back down, I always pull into Harris Beach to turn my phone back on and enjoy Harris Beach. And it was quite crowded, and like we were talking earlier, everybody was, instead of getting away from the water, everybody was piling up behind me, parking every which way, and had their cell phones out. Well, anyway, by that time I was able to turn my phone on, and that's when I got the warning, the tsunami warning. Mm-hmm. The sirens, I didn't really hear any sirens. Was I too far up at Cape Farello?
Well, I'm near Harris.
And you heard them?
I heard them.
Okay, because I've heard
really
mixed
loud
reports on that. I know that Eureka down there, they said some were working, some not. And I guess they're spread out along the coast down there.
There was not up by my house. And I seem to remember when we had a guy who was in charge of emergency services a while back, had shut them all down because most of them didn't work and they were on dangerous poles and things like that. But evidently not, because they did sound.
And I came up with an they had in March of 2021, Humboldt County did a test for all there. They have 12 sirens spread out. 6 of them were not operable. Now, that was in 2021.
Does anybody know what a siren means?
Well, I'm sure they could be interpreted different ways.
I grew up watching
sound.
World War II movies. I would be looking for a bunker or something.
Well, I remember growing up in Southern California, in the LA area, we had, I guess they called them air raid sirens.
Yeah,
and they would go off regularly. for testing.
The other thing we had was volunteer firemen where I grew up. So when that siren's going off, that called the volunteer firemen to go out and go to the firehouse or wherever they go.
And that's a good point, Robin. It's I found out myself when everything kind of calmed down. I was able to get home, and traffic was kind of bad going into town. I live on the California side. I started thinking, I could update my little go bag and stuff like that. We all need to be prepared, I suppose, and I really wasn't as prepared as I thought I should be in a situation like that. So,
you can, if we ever get the radio situation back again, you can for about I think I paid $20 for mine, but I want a little upscale, being who I am. That you can crank up with your hand, put power in it, and it also has a solar panel, and it actually works. I tried it, and unfortunately, when we decided we were not going to have that, I put it in a drawer someplace, and that will work. And you can be going down the road, and if you're not in your car or any place, and crank that up and listen to what the latest information is.
Well, and another interesting point on that, a few days after the tsunami earthquake, we have spectrum where we live, and I happen to live in an area that's just not good for Wi-Fi. Just that's the way it is. I'm used to it. But our spectrum went out. We had no cell phone, no internet for like a day. And I was kind of amazed at how panicky I kind of got. But I do have, here's another thing I should have remembered. I've got a battery-powered radio.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I should have cranked that on at the time. However, I'm right on the border, and I can't even get KCIW, so I'm, about 6 miles from here?
Yeah.
And I can't get it on my little radio. Now, maybe I could with that one you're talking.
I don't know that'd be any better, but you could take it in your hand and walk up the hill or something.
Well, right.
As far as distance, you should be able to hear us loud and clear, but you evidently around a hill or something.
Could have been
in my car. I get KCIW.
Although here again, hindsight, kind of amazing when it does hit. You think, oh yeah, I'm prepared as everybody else, but sometimes not. Either way, I guess overall the stuff I garner from the news reports and the newspapers and stuff, a lot of people just didn't do a good job in that tsunami emergency. Thank heavens it turned out not to be.
We should have some kind of training or volunteer things, or even or YouTube videos or something training us what to do.
At minimum, there should be a few emergency location areas where people would go, like a school or the airport or somewhere. If there's an emergency, for people to at least collect themselves and get information and news.
And get water and food and blankets if necessary.
During the, this time while we were doing the battle to stay on the antenna, there was a emergency services fair or something like that in Gold Beach. And I went to that and spoke to all the people who you would think be interested in that. I spoke to our supervisor. I spoke to a fire chief. I spoke to, I don't know how many people, to include a guy who was in charge of emergency services. And I was starting to get the opinion that for some reason or other, none of these people want to even talk to us or know anything about it. I talked to the fire chief, and he kind of acted like I was talking to the wall. It's like he didn't seem to comprehend what I was saying. It's very simple. I'm sure he could comprehend it, but the emergency services guy, we met with him or tried to meet. I got him at some kind of a thing on at the Pirate Festival or something.
Okay.
And I heard somebody mention his name, and he says, "Yeah, I'm a little busy right now. Can you check back with me in 3 months?" And how busy could he be that he couldn't take a phone call? And that was his job. That's what he was supposed to do.
Well, there you go. Well, we didn't do a good job. If anybody out there does have any ideas or suggestions, you can text us in at 541-661-4098. So like I said, or we said, overall, I guess we just didn't do that great of a job here.
No.
And thank heavens nothing was
And
really happened.
For this community, it should be a prime thing that we're looking at. I mean, it should be like way high on the list, you know.
Right.
New York City has a problem with crime. So now we found out during this recent shooting, you can't go any place in New York that you're not. It's the most surveilled city in the world, I guess. But we don't have to do that. But we could at least have some emergency services in place.
Here in all the beaches, there's those tsunami signs, you know, but they don't tell you anything. They just say,
Run like hell.
go up to higher ground, get out of here.
Yeah.
But you'd think they would have some locations or something to go to.
That's obvious. I think almost everybody would know that. Okay, start going inland so you're away. But what if there is a big tsunami and it takes out a lot of things and you're left then with nothing? Now, what do? You stand around. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know what happened exactly in Crescent City, but I know during the tsunami that we had a very small effect from. Their streets were flooded, and they had a pretty big problem. But
They had evacuation orders in place almost immediately,
Yeah.
just this last one. And I think that's all resulting from the 64 tsunami that took out a lot of the town.
yeah.
Yeah, it wiped it out, didn't it?
It did.
So anyway, that's my soapbox.
Okay. Well, hopefully we'll do better next time. So
That's my soapbox until 10 minutes from now. I think of something else I
yeah,
should have
right.
said, but
right.
we'll try to keep this orderly like we know what we're
Another
doing.
subject we were talking about, and here we are in the midst of the holiday tra-la-la season. I don't know. Me personally, I'm not bragging about this for sure. Even my family, I've become kind of a curmudgeon over these holidays lately. Maybe it's my age, maybe it's the stuff that's happened the past few weeks or whatever, but I'm kind of done over them. However, I am going down to see family this week or next week, and that's what I like about it, just getting together with family. As far as the gifts and the cards and stuff, I'm just kind of over all of that.
I
got
could
over
go
that
a
one.
long time without hearing the Little Drummer Boy again.
Me too.
I was over Christmas when my kids grew up and moved out of the house.
Okay.
There was nothing left. You know, it was all commercial. It was all for the kids.
Right.
Presents, opening presents, believing in Santa Claus. And when that stopped, the spirit stopped.
My plan for Christmas Day is to go see Nosferatu. That'd be very keep Christ in Christmas thing.
Do you find that it has become even more commercial than it used to? I mean, really, it's always been gifts and stuff, but in the last several years, it just seems that's all you see or hear on TV. Buy this, and it starts after Halloween, even before Halloween.
Can you imagine going to
it's unbelievable.
Kmart or a Walmart or something on Black Friday and being there at 3 o'clock in the morning and
No.
fighting you? I wouldn't care if they were giving 25-inch, 50-inch televisions away. I wouldn't do that. But anyway, we are kind of a commercial society.
It's very commercial.
Operator has determined that we have
you do
a
have
text.
a text. Thank you, texter. Says, I live in Harbor. During the recent tsunami warning, I listened to one of the Crescent City stations that was repeating the warnings and updates that were coming from Everbridge and NOAA, and also sharing info provided by callers. I very much appreciated this service. Does KCIW need an official designation to provide this service? Also, my weather apps showed warnings. Appropriate evacuations happened during the recent tsunami warning, both in Brookings and Harbor. Don't know about the KCIW official.
We don't have the ability to do that because we don't have the input here. We don't, we're volunteers who don't know anything about it. We're also only on the air live 2 hours a day. Now, we could, I suppose, go on air, but we're not a news service here. The old system, the people could be sitting right at their desk or right at emergency headquarters, if they have such a thing, and providing the information. I'm happy to hear, though, that there's a station in Crescent City that was doing that.
Yeah.
That's not KFUG, I don't think, is it?
Didn't mention that.
Okay.
If I missed it, I'm sorry, but no. But thank you for texting that in. Thank you.
Does Crescent City have their own radio station other than KFUG?
I don't know that either.
KFUG, and those of you who don't know, is a
Other
station
community.
very similar to ours, the 100-watt radio station.
Right.
That's on live most of the time, so
They definitely sound more prepared than we are. Crescent
Yeah.
City.
Well,
So
maybe
that's good.
because they were almost destroyed a few years ago.
Yeah, they certainly got hit pretty hard. You know, I'm going to go backwards a little bit, Ray, but to the Paradise Fire again. I think another unprecedented, what I believe, part of that terrible tragedy was the speed in which that fire was cutting or going through town.
Yeah.
I mean, I heard like 100 yards within a few seconds and just kept I don't know. Here we go, rumors and propaganda. But I heard it was one of the nastiest fires for that reason.
That's true.
Oh, yeah.
My neighbor down the street was in that.
Oh.
And they had no warning. They had some things ready, but they had still have 5 little children. And they had to get out of there so fast. They lost absolutely everything. And I don't know what year that was. When was that?
Man, I think I had just moved 2018 or
But-
2019.
Yeah, but just now,
No, I
the
think
last
it
few
was
months, he
before
got the insurance and he could finally get a house, but it took that long to get the insurance.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, if anybody wants to learn a little more about the Paradise Fire, just bring it up on YouTube. I assume they're still running the
God.
videos. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Once on the internet, always on the internet.
Yes. That's,
Can't take it back.
YouTube is my favorite source of news because they're not allowed to lie. Everything you see on YouTube is absolutely 100% true.
Uh-huh.
Been fact checked,
Right.
and we're not allowed to lie here either.
Well, bouncing back, maybe we're gonna bounce back and forth today, and that's okay. A little different format for the show, but I was lucky that both my wife and I, and like Robin, you were saying, once the little kids are gone, she wasn't big on holidays either, so it was perfect for us, and we just finally tried to melt away and not worry about all that stuff. And like Nicole, you were saying, it is crazy commercialized, way overdone, in my opinion. I've never even been. I started not worrying. I started not caring about my birthdays once I hit the 40s. After that, it was just kind of all lumped.
Nothing to celebrate here.
Well,
Just
that
another
was
day.
Okay, but I've also got a couple of friends that my age in the 70s. They still have to. They broadcast 3 months ahead of time, man, when their birthday is coming up, and I just never quite understood that.
I have to agree with you on that. It's just another day.
I know.
I like to celebrate that I've made this trip around the sun one more time.
Well, good.
I'm still here, can
Different
still
strokes,
enjoy
different
life.
strokes,
Yeah, but
right.
not huge things. But I
Yeah.
go, oh yeah, okay, I made
Right.
it. Made it another year.
Yeah.
Yay.
Well, my last one, I turned 80, and people convinced me that that's a big deal. You have to do something. So we got some people together.
Yeah, I was there at the celebration.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, that's right. That was fun. That was fun. I finally told my kids this year, I said, look, please, I don't even want any gifts anymore. All it really was doing, God, I'm going to really sound like a Scrooge and a curmudgeon, but all it was doing was making me feel guilty, like I had to reciprocate on giving gifts and cards and all of that stuff. I do still do that for my 2 granddaughters, though. That's where I draw the line. So,
It's for kids. It's all for
well,
kids.
they're not kids either, but still, yeah.
Okay, going on to another subject, if we're done with that one, or we can come back.
Okay,
whatever.
that's fine.
I don't know how many of you watch the evening news or a news program, but last week, about the first 5 minutes of each broadcast were there's these horrible car-sized drones flying all over New Jersey and, I don't know, 6 or 7 states, and what's going on and how come the government isn't doing more and telling us all the things we can do and how magical they are. If we try to get close to them with another drone, the lights go out and they disappear. And
Ray,
it was like
it's the whole country, according to YouTube. I saw a map and it showed the dots over every state.
oh, okay.
It didn't say how many, but
I never saw it. Did you say you saw that on YouTube?
yeah.
Okay, so
Who's
it's got to be true
responsible
then.
for these drones?
I'm sorry.
Who's responsible for these
Well,
drones?
that was the big thing. All the commentators are saying, "Why isn't the government doing more?" And of course, they're doing their great interviews of man on the street. What do you think, sir? Well, I've never seen anything like that in my life. And then they go on to the next one. I don't know why they think those men on the street interviews are worth it. But anyway, now magically, all of that went away. I said, wait a minute, what happened? Well, what happened was, supposedly, the government has investigated, and they've determined that they were not drones that people were seeing. They were seeing stars. They were seeing reflections. They were seeing normal air traffic. I forget what the other things were, but anyway, it was not drones, and it was not a problem at all. They came up with every excuse other than it's something. To I don't know what. I could remember when I was a kid, all the flying saucers were swamp gas, and they didn't blame this on swamp gas. But it's not over. They may get to that yet. So anyway, that's the latest that I know of on the drones.
And it's funny. I know you were talking about we were going to discuss that. So we got rid of our TVs a few months ago, which I'm glad. But I had to Google this morning. I thought, well, let me see some about drones. Has the drone mystery been solved? No, not really, not yet. But I've never been back east. I have to wonder, what is the deal with New Jersey? New Jersey gets hit pretty hard.
What do you mean, with drones?
Oh, with
or
anything
everything?
negative. Watching the old Saturday Night Live, it was always hitting on New Jersey. I've never been back there. So, and it's actually the home state or my wife's home state of birth. She wasn't there very long, but I know you've been back east.
I lived in New York, but I don't know the New Jersey. I don't know. Rumors can spread like wildfire.
Okay.
I'd say that's that about it.
I did live in New Jersey 25 years ago.
Oh,
And
do tell.
It's just across the bridge.
Right.
That's its only location. It's across the bridge.
Okay.
It's absolutely true that the skies are alive with all kinds of planes and things going back and forth all the time. They have major airports, people, private planes, people flying their own drone, all kinds of things like that. But I don't know, maybe somebody said, hey, there's an awful lot of drones around, and that spread to where what was normal traffic last week or this week was not last week. I don't believe, by the way, in government conspiracies that they're trying to cover anything up or anything like that. I just find it a little amazing, though, that with the technology we have today, we don't have a decent picture of any of these things. I have a fairly decent camera with a good lens, and I think that I could get some decent pictures, much better than I saw there. But anyway.
So the drones are this generation's or whatever, this time's flying saucers of the 50s and 60s right now?
I don't think it's that big yet, but I think if it continues that way.
All I remember as a kid back then, it always seemed to, when they had somebody with a flying saucer, it was either in like rural Arkansas or Missouri or England.
Well, yeah.
And I thought, are they only focused on those areas of
New Mexico?
And Leroy and Billie Jean were out gigging frogs in the swamp. And Billie Jean went back to the truck to get another case of beer. And while he was gone, or when he came back, a green man landed and said, "Take me to your leader."
And he was abducted?
What?
He was abducted?
Yeah.
Studied.
I think abductions came later on. I think that was an improvement on the original story.
Right. And then I can't think of the famous radio guy who was into all of that. I used to Art Bell. Oh,
jeez.
That was entertainment, but kind of fun, but pretty outrageous.
I used to listen to him and working graveyard shift in Fairbanks, Alaska. You don't get very many radio stations, and there was a country western station, or the station Art Bell was on. So I used to listen to him, and it was actually comical, some of the stuff. Now prior to the Oklahoma bombing, he used to do a lot of political stuff.
Oh, big
awful
time.
Lot of political stuff. But and it was just as wild as what he would when he went into the woo-woo stuff. And then Oklahoma City happened, and I think he realized that the people that he's egging on with his show were the same people who did that. And I guess he realized, this isn't a good thing. I shouldn't do this. The so-called revolutionaries and people like that want to take over. And then he used to have, once a week, he did, I forget what he called the show, but then he went all to...
Coast to Coast, I think
yeah.
it's called.
That's,
They might have changed it.
and that's still going. Somebody else is doing it. Art Bell moved to the Philippines for some reason.
Well, he's been gone for a few
And he
years.
died quite a few
Yeah,
years ago.
yeah. Well, if you have any UFO or drone stories, you can text them in here, 541-661-4098, or anything about the holidays, love, like, hate, enjoy, whatever. We're just kind of bouncing it around today.
Yeah. What about Area 51? That was a big government secret. Do you think that they were really
Area
hiding
51
something?
is, from what I know, it's a military base, right? And I think we should have. I hope we have military bases that have secrets. I don't think we're
And that's located outside of Las Vegas somewhere, I believe.
I think it's in New
somewhere out
Mexico.
in that part.
Oh,
of the
New
country.
Mexico. Never mind. Okay.
I happen to have gone to Roswell. We were traveling in a motorhome, and we stayed out in the desert. I don't know, away from the lights and everything in our motorhome. Didn't see any flying saucers, though. But it's supposed to be a big deal. And I've always seen all the different things about the thing that crashed there. And there was supposedly aliens, and it was supposedly this, and and there were so many conflicting things, and so many of the things didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. The first thing that didn't make a lot of sense to me is the commander of the base, who was only like a colonel, I think, released a press release that a flying saucer had crashed. Now, anybody that's ever been in the military knows it's a very, very paranoid existence, especially if you're in the officer class, and you don't do anything unless you've run it by your supervisor, or you don't make decisions like that. And for this guy to have done that seems really, really weird that he did that. And then the next day he had to retract it. And there was another thing that I found really odd, that supposedly the Air Force had these bodies. So they called up a local mortician to find out what to do with bodies that you have to keep for a little while. Okay, now this was not long after World War II. What was this, 49, 48 or something?
Somewhere around there.
We had lots and lots of folks who were part of graves registration in the military that we don't have normally. And from what I know of the military, there's no way you'd call the mortician downtown. First of all, if you were a major, you called the colonel, who called the general, who called the... But we had
Chain of
lots
command.
and lots and lots of people who knew what to do with dead bodies. Then the other thing, while I was in Roswell, we went to the Roswell Museum, which I equated to like a junior high science fair. As you walked around to the different displays, it was really didn't convince me of anything.
Yeah, but it brought in a lot of money for the locals, I bet you.
Yeah, and
That's what it's
I
all
was
about.
really glad I went, because now I can say I've been there and I can criticize it.
Well,
I love things I can criticize.
I would maybe ought to go try the Noah's Ark exhibition.
Oh, don't
Okay.
get me started on
Okay,
that.
I
Don't
bet
get
I-
me started.
No.
I
we don't
love
have
it.
to do that.
Noah's Ark's one of my favorite Bible stories.
Okay.
Unlike Trump, I can speak about them. They're not just personal things.
Yeah. Well, here we go. Like I said, we're bouncing around. I got to bounce around to some positive stuff that I've encountered living in this wonderful area lately. We are right in the middle of the gray whale southward migration, heading down to Mexico, and we have so many places here to view them. I did finally catch sight of a couple last week, but I've been out there almost every day for a couple hours at a time, still waiting for the mass migration. And I did see that last year, again at Cape Farello. That's another wonderful high bluff overlooking, just beautiful. And that was the most whale activity I think I'd ever seen, and even more when I went on a couple of whale watching tours out of Monterey, Moss Landing actually. But as far as, that was a little more dramatic because you're right there out with them, and you see them do the mass feeding. It's just great. But it's one thing I really enjoy about this area, and it's just got its icing on the cake for all this beauty.
It's beautiful.
And those creatures they're amazing to me.
I saw a whole pod of them. You know, there's a resident pod in Depot Bay.
Depot Bay,
Yeah.
thank you. That's the place I was, yes.
And I saw some off season when they shouldn't have been going north or south, about 6 or 8 of them off Chetco Point. And it was just unbelievably fabulous.
Point is another
They were
fabulous
playing,
place.
and you could see not just their blow, but the whole bodies jumping out. And it was
reaching.
just spectacular.
I've seen that. Yeah, that's amazing. And then last week, I saw it looked like just 2 of them, but both of them were flipping their tails out after they'd come out. It's a magical sight for me. And
Yeah,
just
me too.
A great pastime up here.
I went on a whale watching boat in Alaska one time, and the captain, when we got on the boat, it was a little boat, and he said, we're just going to stay out until we see whales, if nobody objects to that. And he says, we're going further than I'm supposed to go. So he got a hold of a boat with whale biologists on it, and they said, well, we have some orcas right here. And so we went over there. You have to stay quite a distance away from the whale watching boat, who stay away from the... And a young orca swam over to our boat, swam underneath the boat 3 or 4 times, looking up at us, and that was great. Even the crew was amazed to see that.
They are majestic.
They're fantastic.
Does anyone ever, I know it's probably highly illegal, but in the old days, the whale hunters, and they'd hunt them for their blubber and all that. Does anyone ever try to get away with that anymore?
There were some indigenous tribes here that were starting to do that in the lower 48. Do you know anything about that, Rick? A couple of years ago, they were.
Text, but
Okay, I'm an animal rights person. I don't like to kill things. I catch flies and let them out of the house. I move slugs out of the road so they don't get run over. And certainly, knowing what we know about whales, I just think it's horrible to kill them. But I lived in Alaska for 40 years, and for several of those years, I traveled out to St. Thomas Island and places where they do whale hunting. And there's been a traditional thing that the Eskimos have done for thousands of years. And they're not out killing them for fun. They're out killing them for food. And as much as that, they don't need the food, obviously, anymore, but it's tradition. And when I say tradition, most of us think of, it's tradition to go to the family's on Thanksgiving or something like that. But this is an ingrained tradition. It's part of these people's history, their life, and what they do. And when I would go out to, for instance, St. Lawrence Island, and what I'd do is get off the plane, and I would go up to the first person I see, or maybe the village policeman, and ask how I can find so-and-so. And people would say, oh, he's my cousin. He's on the whaling crew. And they would get just puffed up with pride of the fact that their cousin was on a whaling crew. It meant so much to them that, I guess I can't express it very well, but there are exceptions to whaling that I will.
Yeah, and I'm the same way as you, animal lover. I couldn't do it, but let's face it. Over history, a lot of the indigenous people did that as a living, and from what I have read, and not maybe all of them, but when they do that, whether it was buffalo, whale, walrus, whatever, it was almost a religious, if you will, experience, and they would honor that killing.
Exactly.
And they use that.
Yeah.
When I think about the decimating of the buffalo herds of the Europeans coming across the
bison, yeah.
That's a whole other level.
Back in the days, the Eskimos, and Eskimos, by the way, in Alaska don't mind being called Eskimos. If we talk about Canadian indigenous people, they don't like that at all. The Eskimos in Alaska is fine. But they used to, and I don't think they do anymore, but they would go out in umiaks, skin boats. Probably, I think they were about 25 feet long or something, that were made from walrus hide, and stab them with spears.
Right, it's a little different.
That was dangerous. It wasn't like going out to kill Bambi's mom.
Well, that or the whaling ships that you've seen, that have the harpoons they can fire like a big missile. That's a whole different deal.
When I was a kid and television was new, they filled up a lot of time with some of these old documentaries and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I used to love to watch those. I don't know why. And then there was the other one where they were tuna fishing and they'd be just a lot of those black and white things they used, I guess, to fill time. But
Right.
it was adventure to me.
Yeah. We did get another text from a listener here, and it just says, kindly, please contact ill or isolated people on Christmas and their birthday.
That's
So,
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Counteracting my curmudgeonly attitude at times. But yeah, good message.
Well, a lot of lonely people around.
Yeah, we've talked about that too. Right. And again, if you have comments or questions here, 541-661-4098. So we're kind of winding down, last 15 minutes, bouncing around back and forth. I thought, okay, never mind. I'll pass on that right now. Oh,
Well,
did you get
we got a text.
another text, so that'll...
Help us out, people.
Let's see. Sorry, folks, the operator. Yes, the Makah tribe, M-A-K-A-H.
Macaw.
Makah, thank you, of Washington State will be allowed to hunt gray whales in 2024 after receiving a waiver from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Okay, well, again, indigenous people who've done it for years, honorably, I guess you could say. It hurts me to see them die, but you know what? It also hurts me to see them die when they're entangled in all of these crab pots and all the other stuff that...
Fish.
I don't know anything about this tribe. Do you know it?
I've never
Evidently
heard
you
of
don't
that.
because you couldn't say it.
Right.
They're in the uppermost northwest corner of Washington. They have tribe up there.
They live in kind of a hunt-together lifestyle, or are they a subsistence lifestyle at all?
I think so. It's pretty wild and remote up there.
Yeah, 'cause a lot of the villages in Alaska, not 100% anymore, but a good portion of what they eat and live on is things they've gone out and hunted themselves. Depends on. Some villages are more what we would call assimilated than others. Some of them just couldn't bear eating anything but Campbell's soup, but others are eating the native food.
I still think it's wrong to kill if you don't need to. I mean, regardless of tradition or cultural rites of passage, I think it's wrong to go out and kill a whale. You don't need to kill a whale.
Yeah.
That's just my belief.
Having said that, I ate whale meat once on St. Lawrence Island, one of the villages, Savunga, I think.
Well, the bison.
Yeah, I don't know. I really struggle with that particular one.
It's sad to me that the bison were the livelihood of a lot of the Native American tribes, but they used everything. They respected it, like you said. They thanked its spirit for providing them. And they used the organs for gourds, they used the bones for tools, they used the hides, they used everything. Didn't waste a thing. They built their teepees out of the hides, and then the white settlers, killed them all. So now they're extinct. But it's sad, really sad.
I didn't know that. I thought they brought bison, buffalo. I guess there's a bit of a difference there then. And I'm not aware of that.
It's a different name for the same animal.
They're bison. Supposedly, buffalo are referring to the water buffalo that live in certain countries in Africa.
Okay. No, it was a horrible decimation of life with the way they did that.
Oh, and a lot of it was to eliminate the indigenous people.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Kill all the buffalo. They have no reason to be here.
Yeah.
Right.
Kept me on my other little kick about the founding fathers, how the country was found on genocide, slavery, white supremacy, and manifest destiny.
Sounds like it's going back to that, too.
What?
Sounds like it might be going back to that, too.
Yeah, to some extent, yeah. Some of that's kind of scary, that kind of talk. I have a T-shirt that says, nobody can be illegal on stolen land.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I feel my career working for the railroad, which provided a great life, and the railroads did a lot of I guess, good things you could say, but they were part of the problem of that manifest destiny.
Oh, absolutely.
You know.
So you should be ashamed of yourself.
Well, you know what?
You should.
I guess some part of me might be.
you
Maybe,
work
but-
Plant
for
a
the
tree
railroad?
every year to make up for it or something.
Do what now?
You should plant a tree
Oh.
to make up for the trees that your ancestors cut down to
It
make a
was,
railroad.
pretty brutal, but boy, did they do a lot for the country. You could
Oh, my
look at it
goodness.
a few different ways.
Who built the railroads?
Who built
Who
it?
built
Chinese?
them? I know, yeah.
A lot of Mormon labor back there? No, for sure. I did read a book about the Chinese building up over the Donner Summit, especially. Boy, that was. It's hard to believe they could even do that without all the super technology, but they did it with blasting and pretty amazing stuff.
And carrying stuff away by hand, and
Oh,
you know
yeah.
this thing with Notre Dame opening up again. They've been having programs about the different cathedrals and stuff. And you look at those things, and say, they made those by hand. How did they get that thing way the hell up there? And it was unbelievable.
Yeah. A lot of opulence and
Yeah, and then they had these
over that, but
incredible paintings and carving, and
yep. I've never been there, but
Well, how did they get the big, huge stone bricks up the top of a pyramid?
oh, well, that was Asian aliens.
That's right, yeah.
You can know it there.
I think Art Bell
That's
talked
on
about
YouTube
that.
too.
But it is pretty amazing. I really don't know if they've ever truly figured that out.
They have a lot of theories, I think, is about it.
I mean, that is pretty amazing. God, I was just reading something else. Was it Stonehenge? I don't know, about how those particular stones, if you will, came from quite a long ways
Yeah,
away.
long way.
I think we
away.
had a show on that one time too, about all of that. You know,
And how they lined them up so precisely with
Yes.
the planets.
We need to have Neil deGrasse Tyson as a guest here someday.
That would be wonderful.
He's the smartest man in the world. He knows
You know,
everything.
it's okay. You just triggered my brain on another. I'm going to bounce around a little bit more. I just saw something on my YouTube about the green flash. Have we talked about the green flash?
I've seen it a couple
You've
times.
seen it?
Oh, yes.
I've lived here for over 6 years, and I try to catch it, but I didn't know the picture I saw the other day. It was like a brilliant green. I was thinking it might be just a pale.
No, it's sort of chartreuse, but a pretty chartreuse. Yellow, a little bit of yellow in it, but it's a beautiful shade.
Where
of
did you
green.
see that?
Down in Trinidad, California.
Wow.
And the circumstances have to be just right.
Right.
It has to. You see it on the horizon when the sun has just set. It has to be totally clear, no clouds or anything.
Right. It has. Yeah. All the quote
And it's-
stars have to align. Or
You
whatever,
can't
but-
blink either. It's very quick.
Yeah.
And what is it, this green flash?
I'm not sure how to. I don't know how to
All I
explain
come
it.
up with, they call it an atmospheric phenomenon, and it like.
That's a pretty good explanation for anything that you
Yeah.
have no idea
kind of
what it is.
astronomical
light for
phenomenon.
refraction or something.
That's what the drones are too.
But it's pretty. It's an amazing thing to see. I've never seen it or like Nicole has. But yeah, everything has to be perfect, and it's like the minute the sun dips below the horizon, it'll send out that green
Yeah.
flash. And yeah, I thought it was just like the proverbial old wives' tale when I first moved up there.
Actually, I've seen it twice. It's just
That's pretty amazing. That's a rare
it's
sight.
an awe moment.
That's nice.
But it's hard to catch on camera, I would think. Did you said you saw a picture of it?
Yeah, it was from Neil deGrasse Tyson
Really?
or somebody associated with him. That's how it came up on my YouTube. Like you said, Ray, if it's on YouTube, it's got to be true.
They're not allowed to lie.
So,
Everything from what the green flash is to who makes the best chainsaw. You just go right.
well, everything's right there. And like I said, when I had no cell phone for a day, a little panicky.
Oh
was
my God! I
disappointed
cannot
in myself.
imagine. I can't imagine a whole day. I had to bring mine in to get a new battery in it, and the guy needed it for an hour or so, and not a battery, something else anyway.
SIM card.
No,
maybe.
it was it was the thing you plug it into. And
Oh, okay, the charger.
and,
You don't even
He's-
need SIM cards anymore.
I don't know what they are.
I never had one.
Yeah, the SIM card goes in the phone. I just had to have my phone replaced, and they said, "Oh, you can just download an eSIM. You don't even need the little card anymore." That's when you see all the spy movies. People are taking out their little card from the phone so they can't be tracked.
Oh,
Well,
right.
you don't have a SIM card anymore, so I guess you can be tracked no matter where you go
Oh, no.
at any time.
Wait, does a SIM card come with a phone?
Usually,
Because
yes.
I've never had to.
They're tiny little 1/4 inch by maybe a 1/2 inch little disc that goes in the phone, but they're not made with that anymore. At least iPhones aren't, because you can download.
When I was in
SIM
Africa,
card.
my ex-wife spent the first day or two talking to people about SIM cards, and I had no idea what she was talking about. But once she got that, I mean, she could call home from Africa with a little thing smaller than a cigarette box. I never understood that.
The play I was in recently called It's a Wonderful Life, it made me think about phones and how far we've come, because in that play I play a person that's answering the phone a lot. But it's an old-fashioned phone with 2 pieces, you know, the speaker, little speaker, and then the separate thing you hold up to your ear. And it's just, I thought, wow, those were the days.
Kind of wish we had those still.
Yeah, I mean, just think how far we've come.
I watched an episode of Sky King yesterday.
Oh, my
How
gosh.
many of you remember Sky
Yes,
King?
I was in
do.
love with Penny as a kid. Who wasn't?
I do remember
Penny
that.
from Sky King.
And in this episode, the cop was talking to Sky King, who landed near him for some, or he was out at the ranch or something, and he was telling Sky King about the people who escaped from the prison or some damn thing. I don't know. And he said, "Well, why didn't you get me on the radio?" And he says, "Well, my radio was down." Which Sky King immediately climbed into the cop car and in 30 seconds found the loose wire, and then it was good. But I
All
thought,
those-
well, but today, you know, if you were flying in Las Vegas, we could call you on the phone.
All those old shows that, of course, I loved as a kid. Yeah, I was recently watching an old episode of Bonanza. That was like must-watch TV when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I thought, my gosh, that is hokey. Now, but
This-
back then it was, oh my, this is one of our favorite shows.
This Sky King, of course, was a kid show, but it was beyond
yeah.
hokey.
Oh,
way
no.
beyond.
Right.
But I watched an episode of The Rifleman.
Oh God, that was.
There was no plot. There was
No.
just, things
I
happened.
had a toy rifleman's rifle,
Oh yeah.
and thought I was cool until, remember how you used to have to flip
Yep,
that thing
yep.
around? I flipped that around one day and it smacked me right in the face.
Take your eye out,
So,
little kid.
From
John.
macho rifleman, I went screaming home. Right. Hey, we're getting down to the nitty gritty. Just got a couple of minutes left. I did want to real quick come up. We have an upcoming, I don't know if we're going to even be on the air next Sunday or not. I know I'm not going to be here, but we do have upcoming shows thinking about, Troy Leah was talking about the new year, changes coming in the new year resolutions, just different plans we have for the upcoming year. Going to talk about that. We also have a show planned on, I hope, Klamath River, the undamming of the Klamath River. I'm trying to get a guy from the South Coast fishermen to talk about that.
I think there's a YouTube about that.
Oh, yeah.
I think I just
a
saw
lot,
that.
yeah. Anyway, that's just some upcoming shows that we have planned. But thank you all for listening today and the text.
And if you have any suggestions, please send them to
Please.
us. And if you want to be here as one of the panel, let us know.
Yeah.
You will go through the rigorous trials of becoming a panelist, but
As you can tell.
if you know, there's the what's that? The something in the few anyway. But
Right.
if you're good enough, you can get in.
So, yeah. Like I said, do you anybody go to KCIW.org and come on the panel if you want to do a show?
I think we have an opening or two for volunteers too.
Oh boy,
I don't know. Have to check with the volunteer coordinator to find out.
yeah. Okay, well, thanks everybody, and this is KCIW 100.7 FM, community radio station here in Brookings, Oregon.